This is Jenna Burt, host of the Confessions of a Military Spouse podcast. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Strike three, you're out.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Caught Listening here on Public House Media. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Google Podcasts, Spreaker.com, Stitcher.com, and of course on iHeartRadio or publichousemedia.org. Pitchers and catchers report this week, and it is our favorite time of the year because baseball becomes full circle now once again. Christian Heimall here with you, as always, every single week. Don't forget to check us out on social media. Just search Caught Listening by Public House Media. Today's a fun day because we're going to start our division-by-division season breakdown. We're going to go through all 6 divisions leading up right to opening day at the end of March, and we're going to start off in the American League East. Where else on this show? For those who have followed Press Row or me at all, you know that the American League East is where I live and breathe, with the Red Sox, Yankees, of course, Orioles, Rays, and the Blue Jays. To help us break it down a little bit more, a good friend of the show on Press Row, good friend of mine, and we're happy to have him, WFAN, The Athletic, and a host of other places. He is Pete McCarthy. Pete, appreciate the time.
Yeah, no problem. Do we need to include the Orioles in all of this? I mean, they're like more AAA at this level. Where should we put them?
Well, what's funny, and we'll get to this a little bit later, but we play a little game every week called Pepper, like we used to play when you were kids, just hitting the ball back and forth, where we let the fans and the listeners ask questions. We got a couple Orioles questions actually to talk about, but I guess my bigger question is not so much will the Yankees win the division, but what could prevent the Yankees from winning the division?
I was trying to think of that. There's not much, because last year they basically had all of those things that you could point to that could go wrong, and they still won the division going away, and the division was better last year than it is this year. So, yeah, I don't know exactly. It would take a lot. You're talking about multiple injuries. You're talking about Garrett Cole not making any kind of an impact. You're talking about, look, Aaron Judge's time last year, it feels like it doesn't matter. No matter who the Yankees throw out there, they're so deep that they can handle it. One issue the Yankees will have is center field. Can Brett Gardner really handle that position all season long, or at least the first half of the season until Aaron Hicks comes back from Tommy John? But there really aren't a whole lot of weaknesses on this team, and they have so much depth all over the field, from the Mike Tauchmans to now Miguel Andujar is a depth piece for them. All the way down the line, the bullpen, the rotation, it's ridiculous.
And of course, obviously, adding Garrett Cole certainly helps legitimize and solidify that top-of-the-line starter. Bringing him in, what's going to be the biggest adjustment maybe for him coming and putting on the pinstripes?
It's just New York. It's just, you have that dollar figure on you. That's the headline. That's who you are now. You're the $324 million man. And there's expectations that go along with that. I think a lot of guys, when they sign that contract, there's an expectation that they put on themselves that they have to live up to that number and try to be something more than what they've been in the past. That's just not the case. Just be who you've been. That's what you got paid for. And then New York, if you struggle initially and you're supposed to be this ace, the city will get on you, and that'll be part of it. I tend to think, though, Garrett Cole is going to be just fine. He is someone that maybe hasn't been in the kind of pressure cooker that New York brings, but I don't see him struggling. I don't see him going out and having an ERA up around 5 after 2 months of the season. The stuff is too good. The ability is there. He's in his prime. Pitchers have generally been pretty safe bets on the long-term deals if you look back over the course of the last 10 years or so. So I don't think that Cole's going to have to deal with any of that, and it's really just going to be, well, how good can he be come playoff time, because that's what's going to matter for these Yankees.
It is. And, of course, obviously the whole conversation this offseason has been surrounded by Cole's former team, the Houston Astros. What kind of has he made any comments about any of the sign stealing? Has it been brought up to any of his teammates now with the Yankees? And how do you think this could impact things when the Astros come to the Bronx in September?
Yeah, well, when they come in, it's going to be, the fans are going to be rude. There's going to be a little atmosphere there in the Bronx, no doubt. I think that's going to be true no matter where Houston goes this year. They are the villains of Major League Baseball. Jose Altuve, Alex Bregman, Correa, you name it. These guys are going to hear it everywhere they go, but especially in a place like New York where the Astros did knock the Yankees out of the playoffs in both 2017, where we know Houston was cheating, and last year in 2019, where Major League Baseball didn't say they were, but obviously there's still some suspicions of buzzers or whatever else the Astros may have been doing at the time. So, look, that's going to be a part of things all year. I'm trying to think of the timeline when Cole did his introductory press conference with the Yankees, but I don't remember the sign stealing being much of a story then. Remember that Cole wasn't there in 2017. He was only there 18 and 19, so theoretically it was after they had this whole system in place with Carlos Beltran and Cora and those guys. They were gone by the time Cole got there, but surely there were some remnants of it, and even in the report they acknowledged that they were trying to utilize the same system in early 2018. So Cole speaks for the first time since that press conference on Thursday. He'll be asked about it, no doubt. His reaction, teammates using it, what he saw. And at that point, I guess we'll find out how he reacted because, Wednesday was all about Aaron Boone and a lot of the other Yankees reacting. And I think acknowledging that they're angry about it, but also, hey, we got to put it in the past, move on. It doesn't do us any good to keep worrying about this.
Talking with Pete McCarthy, WFAN, The Athletic, and a bunch of others there in New York, talking American League East here on Caught Listening. Yankees' biggest threat to the American League East has to be the Tampa Bay Rays, a team that won 96 games a year ago. And they return a lot of those key pieces, mainly Charlie Morton, Blake Snell, Tyler Glasnow. What do we expect out of the Rays and Kevin Cash, who, to be honest, I'll be completely honest, when the Astros and the Red Sox jobs opened up after these things, my first thought was Kevin Cash in one of those big markets and one of those really competitive teams, but he seems to be doing pretty well with this squad.
Well, even if Kevin Cash has stayed, it is Astros assistant general managers and front office people spreading all throughout the sport to Boston, to Houston. I mean, everybody wants a piece of what the Tampa Bay Rays do because they have so consistently outperformed expectations, and they've been able to do it year after year after year. Like, we see the Athletics go through kind of peaks and valleys, and they're really good for a period of time, and then they're really bad again. But the Rays, you don't have a whole lot of that roller coaster where, hey, we're going to go all in for a couple of years here, and then we'll trade all these guys and wait for the prospects to come back up. The Rays are somehow able to maintain this, and they seem to trade everybody at the perfect time. And, you trade Chris Archer for Glasnow and Austin Meadows, and it's just an absolute steal of a deal. So you have to give them credit to what they've been able to do, what they've been able to sustain. You know that they're going to maximize their pitching staff. They do a bunch of no-name guys at the bullpenning and anything creative, anything to grab any kind of an edge, I guess, besides going to the degree that Houston did, as far as we know. But this is what Tampa Bay is able to do. I mean, they're really it's amazing. So, yeah, they're well-managed, coached, run, and it pays off, wins and losses. Just such a tough division for them to get over the top. Especially
when you look at them and they don't have any real star power on this team. I mean, Eric Sogard, yes, has been talented in places he's gone. He's never been the guy. Tommy Pham, I guess, might be there only from a position player standpoint. Kevin Kiermaier, but there's really not much star power there in Tampa. They just play great baseball day in and day out.
Well, I think Austin Meadows should be on that kind of path here, but he hasn't done it anywhere else. I guess he's got to do it multiple seasons. I get some of that, but I think that's the player that has that kind of upside. But this is what Tampa's always done. They don't want the big names because you have to pay the big names. So as soon as a guy becomes a household name, it seems they're trading him and moving on, and then they're going to find somebody else that they're going to develop for a few years until that inevitably turns over. It can't be easy, but they make it look easy. And again, you mentioned the starting pitching as well. I mean, they got some guys that can absolutely toss. So the pitching will keep them in games. They'll maximize what they get out of the pen. The lineup is average to above average, and I agree, they'll be the top competition for the Yankees in this division. It's tough to do it over 162 when you have so many things that have to go perfectly for you. But we've seen Tampa stay competitive before.
When you look at the rest of this division, I mean, with the trade of Mookie Betts and David Price, who is what he is for the Boston Red Sox, helped them get a World Series, and that's ultimately all they cared about with that contract. But when you look at it, where the bottom three in this division, where do you see them stacking up? The Sox, Jays, and the Orioles.
I'll still put the Sox in the third spot. I think there's still plenty of talent there, and I know it's such a gut punch to lose Mookie Betts, and they really didn't add a whole lot this offseason. Not that Rick Porcello pitched well last year, but you've seen him pitch well in the past, and he moved on as well. But I still feel like that'll be an above 500 team. Toronto is interesting. They're a team on the rise. They add Hyunjin Ryu to help out the rotation a little bit, and you hope to see some further progress from Vladimir Guerrero Jr. He didn't exactly blow you away with what he did his rookie year, but I still think that Blue Jays team is a couple years away from truly becoming competitive. And I gave my feelings on the Orioles at the outset of the podcast.
I
don't want to keep kicking them.
Well,
I will if need be.
No. We can save that for later. But I mean, when we talk about the Red Sox, and try to, if you can, for those who maybe haven't understood it just yet, the legitimacy behind the Mookie Betts deal, because I think where a lot of fans see nowadays, now at least after they understand what the initial reasoning was, and that was financial sanity or whatever you want to coin it for the Red Sox. But then when you're giving that money to the Dodgers as well for David Price and all of this, try to explain, if you can, why this is a good move for the Boston Red Sox, especially the timing of it.
I can't and I don't want to. I mean, this is bad for baseball. And seriously, Not only is this a great player, but he is someone who led the team to a championship. And I know they take it for granted in Boston now, but was the best player on a championship team for the Boston Red Sox. And I understand he wanted to take it all the way to free agency. I didn't think they gave him truly a market offer, though. 10 years, $300 million, nothing to sneeze at. But, I mean, this is someone who should be a $350+ million player. I think he's better than Bryce Harper was, more attractive than Bryce Harper was last year, and you saw the contract that Harper got. So I understand Mookie wanted to take it to free agency. If the Red Sox had offered him $400 million and Betts still said no, maybe I'd be more willing to look at the Red Sox point of view on this and say, oh, they're punting the season anyway. They're not going to be able to sign this guy. So, sure, jettison a guy who's done everything right on the field, off the field, and send him away for not even a lot of prospects, but to dump David Price's salary as well. There's nothing about this deal that I like. I don't like the fact that the Cubs are shopping Chris Bryant, another guy who was a key piece in a championship team. I mean, if you have star players being dealt away from the kind of markets that should be able to afford them, something's wrong. And these guys that have won, it's not even like they were, the best players on bad teams, I could finish last without you and that kind of thing. And these guys helped deliver titles to what we consider baseball-starved, fever pitch cities. Yep. And to see this happen, I just think is a shame. I really do. There's no other way to put it. I don't want to justify what Boston did.
Well, and there's so much about the deal that bothered me, and you and I have known each other for years, and you know that I grew up and still am a diehard Red Sox fan, and it hurts to the core that Mookie Betts, in my opinion, the second best player in the game behind Mike Trout, is being shipped out unceremoniously, and you're not even getting a major leaguer in return for that. I mean, Alex Verdugo, don't get me wrong, could potentially be something, but you don't want a kid that young who had back issues a year ago to be the corner piece of a trade. So it's certainly about, and I agree with you, and I've seen this so much from different people throughout social media over the last couple of weeks, that it's not a dollar issue. It's a fact, it doesn't make sense saying that you're trying to get financial sanity, you're trying to get under this luxury threshold when you're one of these teams that has constantly been able to do it and reload and can go out there. It just makes no sense to me whatsoever.
Mookie Betts should be more valuable in Boston than he is anywhere else. Again, it's a large market. People buy the jerseys. People watch the games. You have kids that are attached to him that I'm sure cried when he was dealt. And this is part of becoming a baseball fan and having that attachment when you're a kid. Again, the best player on a championship team does everything right on the field, off the field. You could bowl 300, so, put that in the plus column as well. I don't. You're taking the soul out of the game. I mean, if you're just going to look at the analytics, at the spreadsheets, at the numbers, at the accounting, then fine, you could justify this deal to some degree, but you're taking the soul out of the game with moves and decisions like this. And unless the Red Sox are going to pony up and re-sign him in free agency, I don't understand. And even then, I mean, I just
that's the only thing.
The NBA has helped us with the Larry Bird rights, right? So that guys stay on the same team because they understand there's value in that.
Right.
And to me, as a fan looking at this, I mean, what's the value of the owner getting under the luxury tax? Who freaking cares?
Right.
Like just pay up. You're making oodles and oodles of money. These teams are worth billions of dollars, like billions plural. Find a way to keep the guys that really connect to their fan base around, and Mookie Betts is one of those guys.
Did the Sox make the right move in bringing Ron Roenicke and moving him to interim manager for the year, or should he just be the manager?
No, the Red Sox made all the wrong moves. No, Ron Roenicke is fine. I think what's important is that we find out what MLB's investigation found, and then we'll know, all right, did they have a system in place? Was Ron Roenicke involved? Joe Espada, I don't see how the Astros could have gone to him, their bench coach, after all the details came out on what they were doing, and they went outside the organization with Dusty Baker. So I think it's kind of similar with Boston. Until that report comes out, it's kind of hard for me to sit here and say, oh, they did the right thing with Ron Roenicke. Like, Roenicke was okay in Milwaukee. He took them to the playoffs, and I don't think that he was exactly beloved for all of the managerial moves they made over there. But I need to know whether or not he had knowledge of whatever Boston was doing, if he was instrumental in the system. Remember, he was a bench coach in Houston, and Alex Cora that put it all together there. That would determine to me whether or not they did the right thing with Ron Roenicke.
Last thing here before we get to Pepper real quick. Obviously, the biggest – we know the Yankees are probably going to win this division. The question is by how much. But is there a World Series champion in this division? Are the Yankees the odds-on favorite in the American League?
No, no doubt about it. Something would have to go wrong for the Astros. For the Yankees, not only to win the division, but to win the American League, to win the World Series. And this offseason could not have gone better for the Yankees.
Yeah.
They finally had something go wrong last week when James Paxton was hurt. But otherwise, Houston was dinged not only by Garrett Cole, but all this distraction, if you want to call it that, the scandal of their sign stealing. And the Indians didn't do anything to help their team. I mean, where's the real competition there? We talked about the Red Sox stealing Mookie Betts. I think Houston's still their top competition. I do think there will be a little FU energy from Houston this year, like the Patriots after Spygate.
Yep.
But they lost talent, too. They lost Garrett Cole to the Yankees. So the Yankees, I mean, bar none, they're the favorite in the game to win the whole World Series, all of it. And at the end of the day, the only way they don't, in my mind, is if October comes around, they have one of those bad weeks where they don't hit, and you shrug your shoulders and say, that's baseball, Susan, and that'll be that.
All right, well, we'll get to Pepper. We're here with Pete McCarthy, WFAN, The Athletic, and a host of others here on Caught Listening. Again, you can submit your questions every single week, be a part, and play Pepper with whoever our guest is. Just search Caught Listening by Public House Media on all social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. First one, Mikey on Facebook is asking, Red Sox apparently in talks with Kevin Pillar. For years, they've had one of the deepest outfields in baseball, but are they neglecting the pitching staff and bullpen that have been the root cause of their poor 2019?
Well, they haven't done anything to address it. So I guess they're ignoring that and everything else over the course of this offseason. Look, I mean, it's going to be a plan with Heimall. It's going to take time. It's not about the 2020 season, clearly, with what they're doing. So, I mean, they're neglecting everything right now. Well, how else do you put it?
I thought not re-signing Joe Kelly after 2018 and Craig Kimbrell was the start of the downfall. That's just their bullpen. Don't get me wrong, Chris Sale was great. David Price had a great month, but you needed what Joe Kelly, what Craig Kimbrell, and what Nathan Eovaldi did, and they went after Eovaldi, obviously, but what those guys did in that postseason was huge. And for Brandon Workman to be your closer, just it doesn't make sense to me. It really does not.
Yeah, well, they paid Eovaldi, and he got hurt right away, which was kind of foreseeable. And the other mistake I think they made was Chris Sale. He's already hurt
100%.
when they signed him to that monster 5-year deal. I was shocked when that came across, and I mean, they better hope the velocity picks up, and he's a lot better than he was last year.
You don't sign Sale, maybe you can actually afford Mookie Betts, but we've already belabored that point. Sorry, we're going to have to kick on the Orioles here a little bit. Brandon asking as well, anything to expect, or should I just wait for football season?
Yeah. You got Lamar Jackson. You'll be okay.
Exactly.
I don't want to hear anybody in Baltimore complaining.
And then our last one here on Twitter, Major League Baseball with their new rules, changes, and proposals. Overall thoughts on some of the craziness that Rob Manfred is throwing out there?
Well, the real rule changes that are official, I like the 3-batter minimum. I don't have a problem with that. Anything that gets you out of those commercial breaks in the middle of an inning, and it'll add an extra strategy wrinkle to the whole thing. We'll see how it plays out, but I have no real qualms with that particular rule. The playoff stuff that's been thrown around, it's ridiculous. It's stupid. Baseball is about its regular season. You play 162 of these freaking games. It's a soap opera. Not everybody gets a chance to watch day to day, but maybe when you're a kid, you got a chance to watch 4 or 5 games a week. Retired people have time to watch every single day. I've had the opportunity through work to be able to do it. That's the fun of baseball, is to, follow it, and that it's always on and it's always there. And what baseball is trying to do is make itself a TV appointment viewing sport in October, which is great. All right. So make October your big month, but now you're doing that at the expense of the first 6 months if you're going to have half the teams make the postseason. So what happens? You become college basketball. You're relevant in October and you're irrelevant the 6 months before it. I really think baseball, they're out of their minds if they have a system that it's 14 playoff teams in a 162-game season. It is a ridiculous idea. They're trying to make short-term money at the expense of the long-term product and what the game is all about. It's not just tradition and history. Baseball makes money on the local broadcast. I mean, that's where most of their money comes from. That people will watch the Red Sox more than any other television program every single day for 6 months. And same thing in Kansas City and all these different markets that you look at where people are baseball crazed. It's stupid. I mean, I'll give you an example. Last year, the Yankees, they weren't in competition later in the season. They were going to make the playoffs. It was all about October. And even though the Yankees won over 100 games and they had a number of guys filling in, they were kind of a fun team, their ratings were down 20%. They were down 20% because there was no drama until October. And if you take that away in all of these markets, or so many of these markets, I'm telling you, you're going to kill the product for the 6 months during the regular season so that you get, a few extra casual eyes on in October. It's not going to work.
Definitely going to be – I'm not a big fan of this postseason stuff, to be honest. I mean, especially the idea that a team can pick who they're going to play. That's the most ridiculous part about the whole
like
thing.
That.
I mean –
that's fine with me.
See, I can't get behind that for some reason. I don't know why. But I will say this. The 3-batter minimum, we've been using this in the Atlantic League in 2019. I love it. It's great. It's one of my favorite things in baseball. I love this idea, so I'm completely fine with it going into Major League Baseball in 2020. Pete McCarthy, WFAN. Yes, exactly. Pete McCarthy, WFAN, The Athletic, and a host of others. We appreciate the time as always. Let the folks know where they can find more of your stuff and your baseball insight.
Yeah, just give an old Twitter follow at the PD Mac, and you find out where I am when. I'll keep you all updated. But Christian, you do a great job, and thanks so much for having me on, bud.
Appreciate it, pal. All right, that's Pete McCarthy, again, at the PD Mac on Twitter. You can find him there and all of his great stuff. We appreciate his time, and we appreciate yours as always every single week here on Caught Listening. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, review. Share us with your friends and family. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts, Google and Apple Podcasts, Spreaker.com, Stitcher.com, iHeartRadio, and, of course, PublichouseMedia.org. Brand new store. Brand new Caught Listening gear is up and available now at PublichouseMedia.org. Don't forget to head on over to all the social media channels, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Search Caught Listening by Public House Media and find out how you guys can be a part of the show. Next week, we will be breaking down the National League East with Kevin McAlpin, who covers the Atlanta Braves, one of the favorites in that division who have made a lot of moves for 2020. You can submit your questions about the NL East on social media by searching Caught Listening by Public House Media. And I'll see you next week. I'm Christian Heimall. You've been Caught Listening.